Welcome back, Cosmic Family, to another episode of Medicine from Our Hands.
From Our Hands.
Yeah.
With your host,
Dr. Charlie
and Blossom.
Yeah. So welcome back, everybody. So just to kind of start with, I guess things are coming up. We are going to be heading out to Medicine for the People.
Yes.
Right? Similar to our name, right?
Mm.
And that's going to be about 2-3 hours north of Houston. And we'll be there for the weekend from like Thursday to Sunday, right?
And we'll be camping.
Camping. Yeah, we'll be camping. So I hope you like camping too.
You know.
And then so some of us will be vending while some of us will be doing an experience, right?
Yeah. Rhythm of Remembrance is traveling to Medicine for the People. It is a showcase of breathwork, dancing, drumming, dreaming, singing, believing.
Yeah.
If you are in Texas and you're looking to travel, have fun, camp, or have a radically transformational experience, come to Medicine for the People.
Yes, definitely. And then we'll have a little booth there. We'll have some sugarcane juice.
Come on.
We got the Chakra lemonade series from Ray, which will be awesome. And then we're really kind of like taking our vending to the next level, really vending while we're like doing all the like spiritual cleansing, healing, supporting, right? Because we're going to be calling it the Cosmic Caravan Hydration Station.
Ooh. Yes.
Yes, and so we'll be really excited to be providing, support there for the fluids. It's gonna be really hot. In the evening, we might do some tea ceremonies here and there because we'll be vending some different teas. You got some different tea blends as well, right?
Yeah, we'll be doing teas, popsicles, body, soul cleansing products. It's gonna be amazing. Also, your cane juice is so good.
Yeah,
so good.
I'm really
homegrown.
Homegrown.
Yeah.
Yeah, organic. Yes. Awesome. Now, do we have anything else? Definitely follow us and subscribe to our show so that you can keep in touch and kind of know when our show airs. We're trying to make it at least weekly. We try to do it a certain time every week, but we don't always have the podcast due at the same time. So, that's why it's good to subscribe so you can be notified when our next show comes out.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, are we ready to get right into the topic?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So the topic is medicine for our fathers and mothers. I feel like we've had this deeper conversation where a lot of people have talked about the feminine rising, the women rising, the women coming back into leadership roles. So you've seen a lot of womb spaces, female circles. And I think what's also kind of needs to happen at the same time is we need to bring back the fathers. And so I would say it's not necessarily the women, the feminine is rising, but rather the mother is rising again, right? Coming back into leadership roles. And I think this is where the father needs to then have the equal role together so that it becomes the divine couples, the divine families, because that's where, you come in and you are bringing in, and breeding in the new children for a new earth.
New
right?
earth, yes.
One where the children have not been traumatized yet. So it goes straight into like their divine gifts right away.
Wow. The reason why the divine feminine, but the divine mother is so important is because femininity and womanhood and sisterhood and daughterhood and daughtership only comes from a woman being a mother. So a part of why I'm so passionate about the work I do is, sure, it's a woman, she's a womb, but she's a goddess. She's giving life, giving birth to a new thing. This thing, you can't go to the grocery store and pick it up off a shelf.
Yeah, the 2-for-1 deal.
But like the gag is that's been translated to sperm banks. But before you get there, you have to realize that Give honor and praise for the mothers in your life, because I didn't become a woman by just being a little girl and growing up and following my sisters. Every woman, every custodian, every nanny, every lunch lady, every mail lady, every neighbor, every woman in my church groups and my teachers helped form and mirror what a woman is. So I've seen the full spectrum of masculine femininity to feminine femininity and everything in between. But it's why when I see mothers, it's like, if I can do something to help her or them or that family, I will, because mothers don't really ask for much. Maybe love, maybe flowers on their birthday or Mother's Day, but they don't really ask for much. They give so much. So if you know a mother that needs loving, a massage, a text, a hug, a smile, a prayer, do it. She will be so silently appreciative of it, and you'll see her mother better.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the trauma that we've experienced with the mother energy has been a lot of this broken family
Mm.
theme and pattern that's been happening for the last couple of, I'd say, decades, if more than a decade, at least 100 years now at this point. There's different cultures who've done different things to both the mother and the father. In Asian cultures, like the mother is usually considered the in-law that joins the son or the man's life, right? Man's family, and so she becomes the in-law of that family. And we do not treat in-laws very well, and so that's a deeper conversation we'll have through this show. But like the mother in many cultures, unfortunately, today is such a major role in our culture because she brings in new children. Yet we do not give her any, due attention and honoring, and that's such a sad thing because this is why, like, a lot of times people are like, how come the mothers are not like the mothers we wish they were? And that's because I feel like they're so traumatized, whether they grew up with both parents, whether they have to hold 2 3 jobs, to kind of live life. Like they're never gonna be able to be in that mother, divine mother role if we're really just distracting them from seeing that roles as like their main role.
Mm.
And I feel like it's we've again gone back to we've what's it called, simplified their job as they're just making babies. And after the making baby process, like they're like regular people. They go to work, they do that like everybody else. And it's like, no, actually, I don't think mothers should be actually working. I think today the problem is, I'd argue a lot that school is terrible for children, terrible. And I think that if more kids were actually homeschooled and actually with their parents a lot longer, they would have a lot more morality and responsibility in who they were. I feel like in high school, it's a really, I mean, we talk astrology and traditional Chinese medicine. There are certain things that happen during the high school age where their energetic force is trying to like be present in their physical reality. 13 years old, we talk about 13. The teens are become very prevalent, very important for them. Yet, what do? We send them with other kids to go and figure out life, and these kids don't know anything about life either. And then their teachers are all strangers, right? And so you sent your kids out to really this what I call pre-prison, patterns, so that they're forced to like turn into finding like 9 to 5 jobs, versus like if the children actually follow the mother and fathers in their careers. I remember mom and dad days, like I had fortunately grew up literally in the hotel restaurant that my parents owned. And so to me, like Father's Day, Mother Day at work was like going upstairs and watching them work in their space. And so I learned a lot of things about watching my parents do things. And to me, I feel like today we don't appreciate having our kids honor us and watch us and adore us because we are working so hard to create a life for them, right? Usually when you send them to school, like You come home and the parents are already frustrated. It's been a long day at work. They're tired. They had to go pick up their kids, and now you have to like have all this extra energy to handle whatever the child is going through. And that's not always very easy on the parents versus like if the parents has been home with the kids, they've had the opportunity to like really connect with their parents. And today I find that we so often have issues communicating with both of our parents, or if we even have both parents, right? Because today we recognize that there's a lot of single home families, and whether or not whose fault it is, it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that the children are not getting both male, female, father, mother experiences, and so I find that a lot of times what we have to do in our like clinical sessions is like, how do we reparent someone who has such a visceral reaction to one of their parents, right? Like, I hate my mom, I hate my dad. And from there, like, how can you heal that so that they can? Usually, what we notice in astrology, there's a relationship between and having issue with the mother or father causing you to have your own trauma and repeating trauma in a relationship. I could say that you could see those emotional baggage show up physically in traditional Chinese medicine.
Serious question. Can acupuncture heal that?
Yeah, I think it can. We'd have to go deeper into it. The original practice is we had mind, body, spirit acupuncture. Unfortunately, today we're post-communist acupuncturists. That's what we call it, traditional Chinese medicine, which is post-communism. So they've removed a lot of the spiritual and mental disorders, and patterns that we can appreciate. Some people are bringing it back for sure. But what I would say is that a lot of times it's important to actually speak to the patients, to let them recognize what emotions come up when they're talking about that parent that they're struggling with. If it's a father, are they angry? Are they sad? Are they grieving? Are they, scattered? Because that will tell you which organ it affects. And so you can see that a parent, depending on the relationship with that parent or missing relationship with that parent, causes a deficiency in kind of their organ balance. Yeah.
Like DNA strains not fully forming.
I mean, we can go all the way down to DNA.
Sure, but
yeah.
well, I have dealt with sleep deprivation just being in the food industry over time, but why sleep is so important is because during that resting 8 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, your DNA strands are being written and unwritten or broken and not continuing to write if you're not getting adequate rest.
Yeah. I believe that's the subconscious changing the operating system in sleep.
So if parents are asleep, when parents fail, air quotes, something shows up in the children's life that alludes them to say, like, my parent wasn't there for me like this or that. And that's just an interesting thing because I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah. Sleep is definitely one. I'd go down further into like, because you're a doula, so you understand this process. What do they tell parents now to do with their kids when they're born?
Co-sleeping or a skin to skin?
Actually, I mean, you're in your neck of the woods, yes.
Okay.
Most of the time, they're now telling kids that you need to put them in a baby carrot, right?
Well,
separate from them in a different room, and when they cry, you do not
Yes.
go in to cuddle them to teach them that crying is not going to get your mom or dad to show up.
Correct. But the women that I work with are so intuitive. They're so smart. They want to be the best mothers they can possibly be. They're like, give me my baby and let me be with my baby. And it makes me so happy. So golden hour is like the happiest time of life, to see birth and then see mother not always struggle, but struggle to labor to get this baby, and she's holding the baby. It's like 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, 3 years from now, 30 years from now, that mother will always want that feeling of close. So in my practice, I always prioritize and emphasize and advocate for that. But doctors stereotypically say baby needs to be separate from mother in order to grow together. But I think it's counterintuitive and outdated.
Well, I mean, so we should go back to history of this, right? What was it that they used to do for kids? Men were not allowed into the room when they were having children. So what were they doing? They would put all the kids into a viewing room. Yeah, with a glass. And the fathers would see their kids from a glass, and you'd be like, which one's my kid, right? and it'd be like a whole bunch of kids in a room. Like this was on TV, this was on movies. Like this literally, many hospitals used to do that because they didn't allow their fathers to come in. So I'm sure that's changed, but it's just a lot of doctors often tell, they usually take the children away from the parent right away. Like they don't always let the
Yeah,
parent hold
correct.
right?
And
you've
that's like a birth trauma thing that women talk about while making a birth plan, or the small traumas around it. This thing was just in me. It was attached to an organ that grew in me. Oh yeah, just let me have my child. Let me just be. But doctors are like, well, let's cut the umbilical cord. Let's weigh the child. Let's put the ointment in the eyes. Like it's a vitamin K shot, and rightfully so. If we're going to be modern day medicine and be fully technologized and use AI and have state of the art this and that, and Houston, big hub for medical everything, it makes sense. But I believe birth is more primal, tribal, ancestral, spiritual, physical, mind, body, soul, and important, that maybe the background and backdrop of giving birth is not four walls in a place we call hospital. Hot take?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
You know?
Yeah, and I think it goes again. It goes a lot deeper, right? Because I feel like this is where we can talk about the chakras, right? Root chakra is
Can you bring this
considered.
in, please?
Yeah, so root chakra is a very common broken chakra in people, and I see that a lot. There's a lot of blockages there,
When you say broken, what shows up in the body?
deficiencies, or there's a lot of
And-
stagnation that keeps the chakra from actually spinning and pulling energy in.
Chakra spin.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're vortexes. Chakra is a vortex of energy that's
I don't know
pulling
if we
energy
knew this,
in and
but
out.
I'm learning. So thank you.
Yeah.
And what organs or ligaments are connected to the root?
A lot of it is the bottom of the spine, but it's also your feet. And then it's really connected to, it is a lot of times connected to your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, right? It's a nervous system issue because a lot of times what happens is when you're born, the first thing you want to do with your first chakra is safety, right? That means that if the child is crying, it's not safe, right? And how often do we actually look for that slap on the butt to make sure that it is awake, right? First of all, you just traumatize the child by saying "Welcome to Earth," slap. It sucks because you're now experiencing trauma, and then guess what? You're getting slapped on the butt, right? Which is where your root chakra is. So you're already creating trauma in the root. The baby's crying. The baby's like, "What the fuck was that? Where's my mom? I want to hold my mom." Right? And then they're like, okay, it's alive. Now let's go and weigh it and cut it and do this and do that while it's crying. And like, and the mother's like probably sitting there going, what are you doing to my child that I spent
Every
9
time,
months, right?
every time she's saying this, and I'm like, what are we doing?
Exactly. And so like the child is basically now, how long is that child crying for? Now you've just continued to, so now what happens is the child doesn't know how to regulate its nervous system because it's crying, nothing is happening, it's crying, and it's crying really what I need to do because I don't feel safe. The only way to tell someone they don't feel safe is to cry.
Because they feel homeless.
Yes, they just left this home and now they're like, they just want to hold.
Donde?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is, and then what's the next thing that they want to do? They want to be held and then put fed next to the breast, right?
Yeah.
And so I could theorize, and if we were to do studies, we could probably find that like a lot of men who are like
Homeless.
yes, but addicted to breast is
Oh,
because they didn't
wow.
grow up with breasts. They didn't grow up when they needed breast to drink the breast milk right away. And I have my own experience of that,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Because, my mom worked the day she had me. She came home and she basically had a restaurant to manage, and so the joke in my family is like I was in and out. Like my mom came into the hospital, like the birth within 2 hours, I was out. It was the most painful, she said, but it was quick. right? So like at 5:45 I come in, 6:30 she's back at home and she's now getting ready for the restaurant to open, right? But like she's not holding on to me because she's got to do work. So I'm crying and I'm like, hey, where's my mom? Where's my mom? And so I was passed around to all the waitresses because all the waitresses think it's so cute to have a baby around, right? So obviously all the waitresses wanted to like hold me. And so my dad was furious. Hey, like this is not your kid. Like, go give it back to my wife, so
Wow.
that my wife can like take care of my son,
Yeah.
right? And so to me, like those were kind of some things that like I noticed now today as an adult. I'm like, whoa, I do have some inclinations of like trauma around my mother, right? And I've
Mm.
had to take a long time to heal that. But those are the things that like that's so subtle, right? Because I didn't have my mom right away. Yet like it would make sense that for the first 24 hours I should be like duct tape to my mother.
Duct taped.
Duct tape, like
I mean,
seriously duct tape.
strapped like
Like
AK-47,
yeah,
baby.
exactly.
Yeah. No, but that's why like rebosos are so important. Postpartum healing is because like it's as much as the day and the labor and the birth as it is creating that bond with your child. So when everyone feels down and out, you don't feel down and out for the baby. Protect the child.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's why like I feel like we do traumatize children and all humans, now because of this. I don't even want to go through the history of why these, male doctors decided like this is the way they were doing. They're bringing children into the life, right? And so this is again like we need to bring back the mothers who are going to be the doulas, who are going to be there for other mothers. We don't need doctors. We need mothers
We
to be
do.
there during the process of birth. Because that's so important right now that w- most people have root chakra issues, which is safety issues of life and death.
Can you go up the chakra system and just give us the chakras and then what the imbalances can look like?
Yeah, it's a little bit deeper. So this is like a full on like this could be classes for people to be taking,
Oh,
but this
okay.
is this is a deeper conversation. But really quickly, the chakra system are connected to energetic system connected to each hormones in the seven systems of our spine. So I forget what the root are, but like sex organs, right? So those are the hormones, sex hormones. In the gut, there's a different kind of hormone there. So like the heart chakra is the thymus, then the throat is the thyroids, your pineal gland is your basic pituitary gland system, and then your top. So literally, there are seven. I don't know off the top of my head because I work with the energetics of it. The energetics of it talks about pulling in energy from what we call the ethers. Today we call it dark matter. It's not dark matter. It's basically ether that's coming out from everywhere. That's what we in general terms call spirit, right? So the spirit is embedded to everything, and so spirit then allows soul to kind of pull energy depending on what it needs in the body, and so the root is usually connected to safety, groundedness, and stability, right? That's why walking on two legs, because we have to learn to be stable. You'll notice that people who have root chakra issues, you'll see that their tailbone goes in, like if like dogs have their tails underneath them because they feel like they're not safe. That's what some humans who have a lot of root chakra issues, they walk with their hip in like facing
Turned
in,
in.
turned in, because it's almost like their tail is hiding from the fact that its tail was traumatized, or the root was traumatized. The sacral is your creativity, your source of power, your source of imagination, your source of sexuality. So masculinity and femininity comes there. The solar plexus is where we go through digestion and we get power from the digestion system, right? So a lot of times if that's a block, then people have a hard time getting things done. When you go to the heart chakra, this is where we're connecting now. So we call these lower three, the lower three that connects to the full body. And then as we go up and higher up to the chakras, you then see more of ethereal connection, less physical. And so in the heart chakra, you're connected to the connection between everybody. This is why we talk about this like a heart, like when we talk about heart math, and a lot of people have done studies on heart math, we have an auric field that comes out of our heart like a torus. And every time we connect to other people, we pick up energy from other people. So our heart chakra is open and is able to pick up energy from other people, emotional connection. So you have emotional connection when you have an open heart. When you don't have an open heart, you kind of don't trust anyone. You don't want to really be friends with anybody. You think everybody's kind of out to get you. And then you go up to your throat chakra. That's the speaking. That's the voice of expression and communication. So when you feel like you're not able to speak, as someone has told you, hey, shut up, we don't want to hear you, eventually that child will eventually not want to talk. And so it will have this overgrown, sometimes a thyroid overgrown issue, because they're holding on to their thyroid because the thyroid is not able to express itself, right? And then you go up to like the third eye. This is a lot of like imagination, visualization, so how you connect to the things that you see. If you want to do something, you have to imagine it first and then you can do it, right? Or even when you like daydream and you like people see, oh, I had visions. That's where the third eye is. So if you don't have that, you tend to not have you don't have an ability to like have vision for your life. You can't plan 5 years ahead
You're
of time
lost
because you can't see 5 years ahead.
$1 million question. What chakra system was affected by COVID?
I would probably say multiple, but because COVID wasn't just some disease pathogen in your body, because COVID came with societal pressures and patterns.
And that's a pathogen in itself.
Right. I call it the mind virus, right? When you kind of latch onto an idea that isn't true and everyone kind of latches onto it. You know, people like to argue COVID was real. I like to argue some people had some version of some kind of symptom that looked like COVID, and then those were COVID. And everybody else who said they had COVID didn't have COVID. You know, and so when you believe you had COVID, it didn't matter. It's kind of like what happened to communism in our country and in general. When you experience authoritarian overruling of a country, is people are like, communism is like, oh, that person, if they don't believe in this, they're bad. So tell everybody that person is bad. It's happened to the Christians, to the Muslims. Excommunication was the way to like scare people into not being part of a community. Exile. So COVID was the same thing. You're like, oh, you're not wearing a mask. We exile you from our grocery store. We exile you from our vicinity. You no longer are allowed to be part of our community, right? And we saw that even in families. People were like, oh my God, you did not get vaccinated. Get out of my house.
Yeah.
You're not wearing a mask. You're trying to kill me. Get out of my house.
Right.
We didn't know whether, first of all, asymptomatic means there's no symptoms. I mean, they don't have it. To believe that they can make you sick is so backwards in medicine, right? So again, there's a tangent where COVID is not just, you know, I really believe that it was the flu in a really nasty way. Because the flu numbers all disappeared and COVID numbers were exactly the same number as the flu. So we made everybody freak out over a very mean version of the flu, and that affected the respiratory. So respiratories and connected to the heart chakra. We were all 6 feet apart, so the heart chakra was no longer connected.
Out of reach. That's what the disconnect was?
Because 6 feet actually is the perfect distance to not let your field and my field interact.
Let's take a deep breath. Thank you. 2 things. Body wisdom is body wisdom. Closeness is close. Tribe is tribe. Family is family. Skin to skin is skin to skin. And I didn't realize we, as humans, take that technology away from other humans. We all don't make it. Second thing. The reason I asked about COVID, because you were talking about the throat, and I thought, oh, if you have strep throat, for example, that's a chakra imbalance. And I was just thinking like all that it comes with, but not necessarily. And they're tied to two different things. But I was thinking that would be an imbalance showing up in the throat. And would acupuncture or just like teas, tinctures, elixirs be your remedy for that? Or how did you survive COVID? Well, what was your like 5 herbs that you relied on to get you through rather?
Yes, and it's a very long
Mm-hmm.
answer
I know.
to a question.
Thank you.
I wanted to double back real quick to finish out
Double.
the chakra conversation and then move on to COVID. The chakra conversation is 7 is the primary. We have multiple chakras. So it's like saying we have many streets, only a few freeways. The freeways are your chakras. The streets, the local streets are your mini chakras. So our hands have chakras too, right? That's why they're very powerful. Our feet have chakras. So we have a total of truthfully 12 major chakra system in our auric field because we're spiritual beings. And so our spirit holds chakras that our physical body doesn't. That's why we tend to talk about the 7 physical chakras in our bodies. And then we talk about minor chakras in pranic healing because then you start understanding there's like secondary freeways and highways, kind of like the meridians in Chinese medicine. We have 12 major meridians, we have micro meridians, and we have collateral meridians, we have divergent meridians. Like we have the 605 and the 10 freeway are our major freeways, but then we know that like we have like major streets like Westheimer, or
Richmond.
Bel Air, Richmond. So those kind of, so that's why like we tend to generalize the 7 chakras, but then we kind of can go deeper into many. So with that said, we'll put that aside for now because the chakras represent more like the energetics of our physical being, right? But if we're talking about our physical being, again, going back to COVID specifically and in general, I'm not going to generalize COVID because COVID was its own
An era.
It was an era of like societal like hiccups, right?
Man, if that's what we're calling it, yeah.
And so to continue that conversation of how I went through COVID is I was already in my journey of medicine. I was already in acupuncture. I was already in my journey of acupuncture. I was 2 years in. And at the time I had already done breath work. So I knew the power of breath so potently, right? And so when COVID hit, okay, before COVID too, I had done the studies of viruses and bacterias. That is a very big, long rabbit hole tangent that we can do a whole show on. However, to kind of like skip ahead, I already kind of didn't believe in the idea of these like bacteria that was affecting us. Even I never took the flu shot because I believe that the flu shot was giving you, ironically, the flu. They say it's a weaker version of the flu. But like in my way of thinking, it's like, so you're telling me, hey, to teach you about rape, I'm going to bring someone who is not a very good rapist to go and rape you so that you understand what rape feels like. So you never experience rape. You're like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Who thought of this? Why do we use this as the model?
So the motto is that your immune system is strong. So let's give it a weak version of the virus and let us see how you create antibodies for it, right? However, I'm from outside of the country. And so coming to America, you guys don't realize people who have to come into America have to take extra shots because you all believe that people outside of America are supposedly dirtier than Americans. So you are forced to take these extra vaccines. So I took tuberculosis vaccine. So now today, I cannot pass a tuberculosis test because they literally put TB in me. But none of you guys who are in America had to take a TB test. Oh, no, sorry, not TB test, a TB vaccine, because you considered TB to be eradicated in this country, right?
Wow.
At the time. I don't know about you guys' vaccine schedule now. Shit, like, there's so much vaccine in that list. So, like, I'm sure they just threw TB just for fun of it. But during my time, the 1990s, we had to take TB as a vaccine. I've looked at my documentation. That's why I wanted to understand this whole vaccine conversation from my point of view, too. And so, unfortunately, today, a lot of times we're like, you have to take a TB test. Then I'm sorry, I will fail. You guys gave me the fucking disease. by vaccinating me, right? So with that said, the idea of vaccine is a sham because I really believe that during the time of vaccine, really polio and all that, if you pay attention to what polio looked like, it actually looked like Roundup disease. Because at the time, people were using Roundup in all of our food. And so a lot of these issues really were similar to like how basically if the government was trying to hide that, they actually forced everyone to use Roundup on the farms and the farms food was killing everybody. But it looked like some disease. They say, hey, it's called polio. But let's not use a vaccine to hide to like clear polio. And then they said, hey, we're not going to use Roundup. We're going to use something else. So, so long story short, if we're not paying attention to our environment, which a Western medicine likes to say that the environment doesn't affect you, like a rainy day, and if you're out in the rain, that can't get you sick. They believe this.
Wow.
While in Chinese medicine, we're like, that's the number one attack is that rain is probably going to cause you deficiencies and problems in your body, affecting your meridians, causing you to get sick. That's what we believe. That's why we call those what's called wet devils or wet evils, dry evils, right? So when it's dry outside, we call it dry evils because we call it evils as in the pathogens of the environment, which wasn't really pathogen. We just called it like when it rains too much and that rain gets into you, that's called a water pathogen. We didn't really call it a water bacteria. It was just the overuse of water outside in probably in a cold climate coming into your body and you're not drying yourself and you're just constantly wet with wet clothes, you're going to get sick. And that's what we found as most diseases were coming from these environmental issues, where back in the days we weren't living in air-conditioned homes, where today we are, so we have climate control. So when COVID happened, even in acupuncture, the group was split. Those who were traditionalists, classical acupuncturists go, it's not COVID. You have a respiratory problem. I will address a respiratory problem. All the symptoms went away. Whether you had COVID or not, it didn't matter to them. They just addressed the root cause of your symptoms.
Wow.
Which was mostly respiratory.
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of times people were suggesting we get on respiratory, early days of COVID.
Respirator.
Get on respirator, take these herbs for respiratory problems. But we were like, I don't care what you name your diseases. We don't believe in that shit. We believe in what's happening to your body that caused you to start having these respiratory problems.
Get to the root.
The root of the issue was what imbalances inside of your body is having you cough, having you lose taste, having you lose this.
Yeah. Did you ever get COVID?
I never did.
Okay. So you never had a heal
I walked
from
around
it.
though. No.
Good for you.
I walked around. I
don't know if I met someone that can say that.
Because I believe in the placebo effect.
And you didn't get vaccinated.
No.
High five.
I believe in the placebo nocebo effect, meaning what you believe happens to you.
Oh.
So if
Can you say it again?
Whatever you believe will happen to you. It's called self-fulfilling prophecy. Nocebo is if you don't want something to happen to you, it just won't happen to you, right? Because we don't even understand, like, this is what sages used to say, the power of your belief is everything.
Wow.
Right? And that's so important because if you believe you're going to get COVID, you will even mimic.
Or you'll get the fear that attracts it.
Or you are so scared of it because you also know all the symptoms. You usually go around, oh, good, I'm not coughing today because I might get COVID. And then you start coughing. You're like,
exactly.
Oh, so and like right now, I'm like, I want to cough now. Just said a cough. I'm like, I'm coughing. But that's because I just thought, oh, if I'll cough. And then for some reason it tickled, right? So
you're saying the law of attraction is real?
Yes. And not just that, the loss of belief is real.
Let's breathe. Stuff.
So during COVID, I was not wearing masks because I already know that a stronger immune system happens when you are actually taking more oxygen in. When your blood cells got a lot of oxygen, they have a buffer to basically, you have strong and buff white blood cells and red blood cells when they have oxygen. So when they see something come in, they'll just beat it up and then kick it out. And we actually have a practice where when we get something that we consider a toxin or something that comes in our body, we'll feel it in our skin first. So what we do, we go right into sweating it out. Sweat lodge, sauna. This is where the wellness treatment of sweat lodge is a sauna, and basically plagiarizing nature, sunbathing, summer bathing, where you're just sweating, you're sweating toxins out. So for me, I already know how to sweat toxins out. So if I felt sick, I would just go and sweat it out. But, I believe I wasn't going to get it because I literally believe that like people were just running around believing in something that didn't exist, and granted, I have a pretty robust health because I don't take a lot of crap. I actually eat my health. I try to exercise as healthy as I can, and I breathe a lot. I do a lot of breath work because that's my natural state. Like I don't breathe from my chest anymore. I only breathe from my belly. And that's because I train myself to have it subconsciously become the norm. So when people were like, you got to mask up, I was like, no, like I'm not going to block my pathway of magic. Like today, like we watch these animes and these like magical stories where like breathwork give people superpowers. So I was like, why are you going to turn off my immune superpowers with a mask that makes me take in more carbon dioxide, create acidic environment in my body for toxins to live in my body, right? And that's because I also went through my own physical ailments in college when I had all these, I was overeating candy, sugars, and unhealthy like meats and all the crap that is bad for me. And I found that physically I was getting sick because of all this, bad food. But I learned that once you get past the bad food, it's actually your lifestyle. How early are you sleeping? How well are you sleeping? How good are you breathing? And so when they started to attack breath, when they started to attack people not connecting, when they started to attack people's fear mongering, and like the fear mongering went so far. Like I literally believe I was in like communist China and everybody's telling on each other, oh my God, that guy's not wearing a mask. Oh my God, he's not communist. Oh my God, he doesn't follow the Communist Party. Yo, I was like, I'm just triggered that you guys can easily fall through a lot of these and no judgment to everybody because everybody's got different ways that they've been programmed to believe the system, to believe the hierarchy, to believe class systems. And so a lot of times people are like, aren't you nervous that people are going to look weird at you because you're not wearing a mask? And I looked at them and said, I'm Asian. I came in this country in many white cities, Tulsa. I was in Katy. It was very white during the time. And then I went to California and a lot of white places. And so I already looked like none of the people around me. So they always give me looks. So today I was like, I'm an adult. I can handle you looking at me weird because I grew up with you looking at me weird already.
Magic.
So wearing not mask and not wearing a mask is your issue, not mine. Because I know the power of breath. And to me, you were just going to basically suffocate me so I could get sick. And that's such an important concept that, I didn't get sick because I didn't believe in it. I didn't get sick because I know my standards of health that is required of me. If I find that I get sick, I realize I'm not sleeping well, I'm not eating well, and I'm not breathing well.
That's the prescription.
And I will leave people to find these three things by myself to find my balance. So self-regulation is such an important practice as an adult. Yet so many of us do not self-regulate our nervous system because then we get easily triggered. We don't regulate our boundaries. So like my boundaries are like, I know what is important to me is breath. So when you tell me to wear a mask, you're now going to invade my boundaries and I don't accept that.
It's a threat. And I've had jobs that they're like, you can't take a breath with these people. And I'm like, and I want to say, a dear friend of mine's mother, she's 75, but during COVID, she was hippie dipping during the Woodstock days, and my friend was like, my mother refused to wear a mask, the medical grade masks, and she had a printout of the 90, I think, chemicals attached to the masks and said, I'm not going to wear a mask because you're trying to poison me with these chemicals. And when they'd say, ma'am, you still have to have one to enter in, she'd take her shirt and just put it over her mouth. Like, you happy I'm covering my mouth? And I just thought, what a radical generation. What, like, who's printing out? But that was the first time I heard that there were chemicals in the mask. And I was forced to wear them. I started with the medical ones and ended with like cloth ones. But I always had the hardest time breathing. Why I think I appreciate deep breaths just now, because COVID was COVID, but I didn't realize it was breath that was being affected by the respiratory system. And if you don't breathe, guess what? You stop breathing and everything stops. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, exactly. And so going back to, COVID and what I did, I really didn't do much. I just lived my life normally,
Healthy,
healthy.
beautiful.
But yeah, like I worked at a clinic, so I was seeing patients. So we had to do the full on like wear a mask, but like I easily would like wear it when like my supervisors were around,
Right.
but like I would take it off to my patients. Because what I found is when patients couldn't hear you, it made the process
So long,
so hard,
just,
and they were disconnected. I watched so many of my like peers sit there and like, Dr. Jeff, so you can understand that you have to do this, and then this is what's
Wow.
wrong with you. And the person would stare, going, "Look at me, look at them,
But get
look at
this,
me, look at them, huh?"
and then and then you're 6 feet away from them.
Yes, I
You're
might
putting
as well do sign
charades.
language. Like,
Charades in the dark. Bird.
right?
COVID. If you know, you know. Yeah, I always thought about the babies being born in this time. I was like, man, y'all will never not know a post-COVID time. But I remember, I know. Like there was a time before 9/11. Like I know, I was 5, but I remember the feeling.
Yeah. So COVID was a crazy time. There was a lot that we can break down. I really think that we are now in the post-COVID postmortems,
Ooh,
where we're getting legal action at people going into the documentation of COVID, what happened during COVID, and this is our show, so I'm going to say straight out. We're going to find out who was pushing COVID, getting paid to push COVID, getting paid to push vaccines. That the vaccines, some of them in the first round were saline, the second round was less saline. And so what happened with the more and more booster shots, there was more and more poison in them. And so it ended up, you notice like all these athletes that died 2 years ago on the courts, on the field, that was athletes are the most healthy people and bodies. They should not have any cardiovascular. They run more than anybody. Yeah, what happened is with the vaccine, they were pushing their bodies further, and that was causing the vaccines to accelerate the longevity of the vaccine taking action and hurting the person. Because now we're 5 years in, right? 4 years, 5 years in from COVID, but from vaccine, it's probably 4 years in. And now we're seeing what was called long COVID, or what you're experiencing is, I love doctors like to make up disease called sudden disease syndrome, where like we can't figure out where it comes from. So it's sudden because we don't know where it's from. And then yet, if you were to follow the pattern, it's probably all vaccine injuries. But because you cannot say the word vaccine injury and it's illegal to use vaccine injury, it was also, censored on these channels. And so that's why a lot of people did get worse, and no one knew that vaccines were hurting them. And so, in an era where we talk about censorship and the first constitutional right of freedom of speech, people like to throw that around nilly-willy, but we don't really understand what that means until we realize that we were censored for for truth of medicine. And today, if anything gets censored, to me, you should be looking at it clearly because they don't want us to know certain things. Ivermectin was pushed that it was some kind of horse tranquilizer, ended up being like everyone who took ivermectin saved themselves from COVID. So you're gonna find out again, like this is like within matter of weeks and months that we're going to find out how bad our system continued this propaganda of COVID and why people believed it. People did people wanted to travel and they decided to take the shot because they wanted to travel. People who took the first two shots gambled, but most of them most likely got saline solutions. There was a doctor who was arrested for giving people saline solution in some kind of country, the Eastern European, and then he was released recently and said, "You saved all the people you gave saline solution to." Right? So, we are way past post COVID. So I think that it is time for us to kind of talk deeper into this. However, I kind of wanted to round out the conversation.
Round it out.
To we were talking about, it came about mothers. And we were talking about also the idea of the mother bringing the child into life because the hospitals has, I want to say jurisdiction is the right way of saying it, but also like it has dominion over the childbirth process. And that's now we're seeing a lot of birthing centers outside of hospitals. Actually, I know a ton more people who said they're not going ever to a hospital to have children. And so a lot of them have left the system and now they're leaving to go out into the countryside, working together with people like us, acupuncturists, who can support their childbearing experience without having to go into hospital to traumatize their child into believing in a system that has been lying to them for so long. So, the attack on the mother is attack on the father, is attack on the family, and it starts with medicine. And so we're kind of getting to kind of the end of our podcast here. However, I don't know if we have the time to check if we can talk a little bit longer about it, but the COVID conversation is a deeper conversation that we do need to talk about because so many people are now experiencing the after effects of the vaccine, the after effects of not even the vaccine, but just of the stress that came up from COVID, where like people like kind of forgot how to like talk to each other because it became a like awkward thing to talk to each other again because you didn't know if someone had COVID. I mean, the crazy thing is people were so afraid that they were going to get COVID that people were afraid of talking to each other. You guys know that in history, during the Nazis era of taking out the Jews, they said that Jews had typhoid Mary. And so they used typhoid Mary to say that the Jews had it to kind of close off the Jews. That's why people think like, how did they round up the Jews? They didn't round up the Jews because they were Jews. They just believed that the Jews had a disease. And so when we were doing this to each other with COVID, you're like, whoa, none of you guys got a soul trigger where like you experienced that in another culture. And so I think many of us who've experienced this in other lifetimes felt triggered that there was something happening to us that wasn't correct, wasn't right. And a lot of us kind of try to rise up from that.
I like that you've reverse engineered your healing, what I hear more importantly. And I'm proud that you didn't take the vaccine. But what I hear is that when you don't believe what societal pressures are telling you, etc., and you stay safe and you live your life and you see basically the world on fire and everyone in flames, flailing their hands, you, by just living your life, kept you safe, protected you, and you knew all the body wisdoms like lymphatic drainage and sweating, that's all you ever need to survive. And that's a beautiful way that you've lived it because you're one of the healthier people like I know in my life, but I know it's because of what you know and how you live your life.
Yeah, thank you. I could say when I get sick, it's because I overworked. It's usually not a disease.
Wow.
Yeah. So
would that be burnout?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a stellium Virgo. I love to work. So only that my weakness overworking is overworking, so I get sick. Because then that's why I told you like my best way of healing was to just not work, take a break from life, do the things that I know what to do, and then come back within a day or two ready to go, right? So that's kind of like my experience in understanding my health and my body. And that's why now I am in the space I am in, because I experienced it with myself to understand. And so and you know this, but I've shown people pictures of like, I needle myself all the time
I saw that yesterday. That
to
was
test
so
whether or
cool.
not like this medicine works. Yeah.
Me with tea.
Exactly.
I'm
Like you
always
can't be like the guy who says, "Yeah, I believe in all this, but I've never tried it myself." What? And so I've tested a lot of things myself. There's definitely places where like, okay, if that was uncomfortable, I wouldn't do that to a patient because that's not a comfortable space to put needles in. But, you know, there's some places where like it requires it. And usually when you're sick, the body loves the needles in those places. So I couldn't needle myself when I wasn't sick. Right, because then the body would be like, "Hey, we don't want a needle there. We're not sick there."
That's the protection of medicine. Take
Exactly.
what you need, use it, integrate it, leave the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this deeper conversation of medicine for us is also, you know, we like to get to that conversation piece of like, again, childbirth is so important, and the sanctity and the sacredness of that is so important. But it is also, you cannot bring a child into life without the sacred bond between the mother and the father.
Right.
Right. And so what's really important is with the mother, she needs the father. You guys, let's be real. There's no way you guys are having children without men, right? Fathers is what I want to say.
Come on.
Right. And so the deeper conversation, right, is, I like to say this because it's very, very poignant to what's happening right now. When men don't need women to have children, what are they creating? They're creating robots and AI because they don't need women anymore. So they're just going to create those things. And so if you notice, that's why like a lot of guys love AI, a lot of guys who don't want to have kids, right? And so this deeper conversation that now we're looking for mothers and fathers who want to understand that they are bringing new souls, new spirits, basically God incarnate into life. That's the power of what we do with medicine. And so there's a deeper thing that I read in different spiritual books, specifically the Bible talks about this. There is something called the children of men and the children of God. I believe the children of God is what we call soul-embodied humans. Humans who have souls of the spirit, the divine incarnate. And then there are some where you could argue don't have souls. And I believe when you call it the children of men, meaning the creation of men, that's the conversation of artificial intelligence, right? And so that's, I think, where my conversation, from tech, I was in tech for 20 years. I went into VR, and I could have almost been making VR AI experiences and have ushered you all into the false light world.
There's still time.
But I left and became a doctor of this physical being to make sure that this experience, this video game, this experience is the best experience for us, right? So I switched from synthetic tech to natural tech. And that's why, to me, this is the best experience that we should be creating. And so having children who come in through the birth canal, through the mother, because the mother brings love. So when a man can finally learn to love themselves, they all learn to love the mother and bring children out of love into the world. Because without the mother, the father is just creating AI, and the AI is just... We have too many movies to tell us AI is not the greatest thing we should be doing. So we can definitely go to a different episode with nature tech and synthetic tech. However, this is why, like, to me, the greatest service right now is to bring in more divine being through the portal of the mother with the protection of the father.
I thought you were going to say spiritual tech, but I want to get into that next too.
Yes.
But until then, dance break. That's what it feels like to be born. You're alive. Dance. Happy birthday.
Yes. Come into the world smiling and laughing, because that's actually how I came into the world. So like I understand that like we can come in. I felt like I came in going, yes, one more time.
Happy baby.
Let's play. So I was not spanked when I was born, but I definitely was spanked by my moms. But that's a different conversation.
We love you,
You know, I'm a studious Asian guy. It comes with the territory. If you want to be studious Asian, you got slapped a few times by your mom, okay? Tiger mom.
My mom used to say,
I had tiger moms.
A hard head makes a soft bottom. So some Caribbean sayings.
Caribbean knowledge, wisdom. Yeah. So do you have any last words for our audience before we close out?
Yeah, another thing my mother used to say is water more than flour. And that's just like whenever you're mixing something, having more water than not. But because you were raised in Martinique, did you have any cliche sayings you grew up with or knew? Asian Caribbean?
Oh, man.
I know.
That's
No?
No, not
No?
necessarily.
Nothing?
I mean, I was idioms.
Yeah, an idiom?
And because, I mean, a small village, small city, it is when you're getting massive mainstream people that these like anecdotes kind of last. We were in small villages, so like, small towns, small people, like it wasn't like things happen. I was learning French, Vietnamese, and Creole. Right, all three. I don't know any Creole. I don't know any Creole. I remember it's French Creole, so like local Creole, right? It wasn't like Cajun Creole. It was like Martinique Creole, right? So like my dad used to say, oh yeah, my son can speak full Creole. Yes, because every kid's speaking the same language. They're all copying each other. So, at the time, it was so easy to pick up these languages. So I'm sure we had French idioms or Creole idioms. I do not currently remember.
Sure.
Yeah, and the Vietnamese ones, we probably did, but, in today's age, probably came around with like a slap or something.
Oh, no.
Oh, my mom used to say, do you want to be homeless or do you want to not be homeless? Right? And that was like
the way. Right to
it. That was a way of like saying that, hey, you going to listen to me or you going to be homeless? Right? And I was like, okay, I don't want to be homeless, mom. Damn. So like that was probably my trauma of like, never wanted to be homeless. Yeah, because my mom said she would kick me out of the house if I was being bad, right?
Dang, yeah.
So that was kind of like my personal experience with that. But yeah, we definitely will go deeper into like I think our mom
everything.
And father
we have to.
For sure.
But that just song reminds me of that Gypsy woman song.
Yeah.
Wow.
Down there.
Yes.
So yeah, it's thank you for joining us. We kind of went into a COVID tangent. So we probably will bring up COVID again. I think it's such a multiple layered conversation of bringing back medicine, because I believe that any problems and challenges is an opportunity for medicines to come out of it. So yeah.
And that's the healing of it. That's the healing of the season of the situation.
Exactly.
You'll find your medicine at the end of the storm.
Yes, so that's why here we're not afraid to go deep and dark into any issues, because there's medicine to be found in those deep, dark shadows.
Make friends with your shadows.
Yes.
Make friends with your light.
So thank you, everyone, for another great episode. Until next time.
Sin from our hands.